This edition of the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Picture This Photo Books, where remembering is the key ingredient. How beautiful your mother looked at her wedding, and even more so at yours. And who doesn't miss Grandma's meatballs? The holidays are coming. What better time to give a gift of remembrance that makes you laugh and cry all at the same time? Whatever gift of Grandma's recipes, or just because, those smiles and tears will melt your heart. Call Karen Shaw at 646-798-0809 or visit picturethisphotobooks.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 10% off your first order. Picture This Photo Books, bringing your memories back to life. They're whimsical, casual, or formal, and always uniquely you.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show. It's time to give a shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international award-winning author Mian Mohsen Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, then you'll love Missing by Mian Mohsen Zia. Available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. It takes place in 4 countries with 2 strangers and 1 target where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available in paperback and ebook on Amazon. Missing by Mian Mohsen Zia has garnered great reviews and is even loved by Hollywood celebrities including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today. Order Missing by Mian Mohsen Zia, now available at Amazon.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartradio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mian Mohsen Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you love Missing by Mian Mohsen Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mian Mohsen Zia has garnered great reviews and even loved and enjoyed by Hollywood celebrities including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today before it goes missing by Mian Mohsen Zia, available on Amazon. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. Download and listen over 30 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter today. And also, the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by a brand new sponsor, Picture This Photo Books, where remembering is the key ingredient. And how beautiful your mother looked at her wedding, and even more so at yours. And who doesn't miss grandmother's meatballs? Well, the holidays are coming, and what better time to give a gift of remembrance that makes you laugh, cry at the same time? Whatever gift like grandma's recipes or just because, those smiles and tears will melt your heart. Call Karen Shaw at 646-798-0809 or visit picturethisphotobooks.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Picture This Photo Books, bring your memories back to life. They're whimsical, casual, and formal, always uniquely you. And don't forget, check out the Mike Wagner Show merchandise, MikeWagnerShow.com, and also on Amazon, t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, throat pillows, tote bags, and more. And check out the Mian Mohsen Zia store on Amazon for great books and more. And also, you can also donate to the MikeWagnerShow.com and also on PayPal and also on Anchor FM, and make sure you do so today. He's backed by popular demand and always great to talk to. He was a well-known music publicist for Billy Joel, Michael Jackson, Cyndi Lauper, and more. And we also had him on talking about Einstein, Michael Jackson, and Me, A Search for Soul in the Pits of Rock and Roll. We've talked about that. He's had a number of books out there with with the God problem and also Muhammad Code and how I accidentally started the 60s. Well, he started the 60s. I didn't, but we're here to talk about not just all those. If you don't get more on the books, you can also check out the Mike Wagner Show.com and also listen under Howard Bloom as well too. And back again, ladies and gentlemen, by popular demand, the very, very popular, and he's in a race for space, Howard Bloom. Howard, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us once again.
Mike, it's an absolute pleasure.
Oh my gosh. And it's always a big pleasure as well too. And of course, you've been an author and a publicist for quite some time, but we're not here to talk about books or talk about Michael Jackson, Billy Joel, or anything like that. We're here to talk about the race for space. And you got some breaking news as well too. And the bigger news that came out recently, Richard Branson's succession into space. And he's got some competition ahead of us.
He's got competition because we're recording this on a Monday night, and Tuesday morning, Jeff Bezos takes off for space. Now, Richard Branson knows how to do publicity, and he got publicity up the kazoo out of his flight roughly 8 days ago.
Ooh.
And tomorrow morning, Bezos takes off into space with the youngest passenger and the oldest passenger ever flown to space. And he is not bad at publicity either. So he is publicizing this for all it's worth. Sometimes he is getting 4 different stories out a day on what he's doing. And in a sense, this is Mickey Mouse space. In a sense, this is Disneyland space. It's not real space. It's not orbital. You have to really get to orbital to be, in my opinion, at least, in real space. But this is close enough to space that when these two giants go up against each other in PR battles, which they are doing right now, they will increase the amount of media attention going to space dramatically. And America, I got involved, first of all, my background's not really in rock and roll or publicity. My background's in science. I got started in theoretical physics and microbiology at the age of 10 and came up with a theory of the beginning, middle, and end of the universe that predicted dark energy, which was 38 years in the future, back when I was 16 years old. So 15 years ago, I was sort of kidnapped into the space community. But I've been interested in space since I was 10 and 11 years old. And I now run 4 different space groups of all the absurd.
And more continues to pile up as we go along here.
Right. So at any rate, we're in a space race with the Chinese. And we don't quite realize it. The Chinese plan to have their first humans on Mars in 2033. And an expert global analyst named Namarati Goswami, who follows these things very closely, says that every time the Chinese have laid down a date for achieving something on their space program, they've achieved it. And right now, I run a group that includes the former governor of New York State, David Paterson, who, like me, is a Democrat, Newt Gingrich, who, unlike me, is not a Democrat, obviously, 3-star General Steve Quast, whose political affiliation is totally unknown. He very wisely keeps it unknown. And Robert Walker, who's the former head of the Science Committee for Congress. And General Quast has just alerted me to the fact that he who can maneuver the fastest and the most unexpectedly in space wins. And to maneuver the fastest and to be able to turn on a dime, you need a form of propulsion that is vastly beyond chemical propulsion. In other words, it's vastly beyond rockets. And for the last 50 years, Westerners, especially Americans, have been speculating about something called nuclear thermal propulsion, using nuclear to heat water or whatever you want and use it for propulsion. And it will be roughly 3 times as fast as chemical rockets. Well, the Chinese are investing in this very heavily. They made a major commitment to it about 2 years ago. And we're doing a tiny amount of investment, but not enough to make a difference. And General Quast believes that this is the next generation of maneuverability in space. And since he is a 3-star general, he's looking at who will end up policing space, who will be the power that will establish such a strong presence in space that they are able to make the rules? It's either going to be the United States or it's going to be China. But at the rate we're going, it's likely to be China. So this is a serious race. And Steve points out that the Chang'e 4, 2019, the Chinese put up something they called the Chang'e 4. And most of us paid attention to the fact that this was a rover that was going to explore the far side of the moon, which has never been explored before. That was a historical first. But there were other historical firsts. The Chinese, in order to accomplish this mission, put up a communications satellite in something called L4. And L means Lagrange points, and Lagrange points are points where the gravity of the Earth and the gravity of the moon cancel each other out. So you can park something in what's called a halo orbit and be sure that it's going to stay there, that it's not going to drift. And the Chinese put up this communication satellite so that Chang'e 4 on the far side of the moon, which cannot have direct contact with the Earth because the moon is blocking it between Earth and the moon, but it can send a signal to this satellite in L4, and that signal can be relayed back to Earth. Plus, the Chang'e 4 mission involved 2 microsatellites, one of which failed, but one of which succeeded. So they've begun putting up these complex ecosystems in space that take advantage of learning forms of maneuverability that we haven't learned. The Chang'e 5 mission of the Chinese landed 4 pounds. It went to the moon, picked up 4 pounds of samples, and landed them back on Earth. All of these, General Quast points out, are exercises in maneuverability, and he who has maneuverability and a strong presence in space is going to dominate. So we Americans right now are complaining that Branson and Bezos are wasting vast amounts of money on space when they should be solving problems on Earth. Well, guess what? Every time we open a new frontier of resources, we enrich even the poorest people, even the homeless people on planet Earth. Homeless people on Earth today, at least in my neighborhood, have luxuries the rest of us could only dream of 40 years ago. They have running shoes that are ergonomically designed that make walking a good deal easier. They have fabrics that keep them warm in winter when they're laying there on the streets that are far lighter than the fabrics that we used to have back in the 1950s. And they have cell phones, things we couldn't even dream of in the 1950s, complete computers in their pockets. And this all comes from opening new frontiers of space, opening new emptinesses and turning them into riches. In this case, it's opening the emptiness of computer technology and then of the internet, which has become a vast new frontier from a thing that simply didn't exist 40 years ago. Well, space is filled with resources. For example, space gets incredible amounts of solar power. And if we put up solar power satellites that can harvest solar power in space and transmit them down to Earth using the kinds of harmless waves that our cell phone uses, we can supply all of Earth's energy needs and far more than the Earth's energy needs. And we can do it in a way that allows us to eliminate fossil fuels forever and eliminate the man-made contribution to global warming permanently, completely. That's just one resource of space. There are asteroids up there worth as much as the gross domestic product of South Korea.
Really?
Which is a very prosperous little nation. And they're just waiting there up for the taking. So, and what is life all about? Once upon a time, this was a poison pill of a planet. It was just filled with poisons and toxins. And it was the home of climate catastrophe. It swiveled around its axis once every 6 hours. So for 3 hours, it was exposed to this poisonous stuff called radiation. For another 3 hours, it was exposed to this equally poisonous stuff called darkness. And the temperature shot up 88 degrees every time you shifted from day to night on this planet. Then there was the tilt of the planet on its axis. So the planet went through 4 major climate changes a year: summer, fall, winter, and spring, things we now take for granted. Then there's the
definitely.
molecular cycle, which is roughly every 22,000, 40,000, and 100,000 years, that just throws the climate into such extremes that at one point, about 150 million years ago, there were dinosaurs living in tropical forests at the North Pole and the South Pole. I mean, that's really global warming. And nature invented that. There were no smokestacks, there were no capitalists, there were no patriarchalists back in the days of those dinosaurs at all. And then there's what happened when the first life forms learned how to photosynthesize, which was an astonishing new technology, capturing these little wiggles of electromagnetism called photons, the basic units of light, and harnessing them to turn the wheels of life. But there was a problem. These photosynthesizers got rid of what they couldn't digest. And what they got rid of was a gas, and the gas was toxic. But remember, a bacteria is so small, we can't see it. An entire bacterial colony of 7 trillion bacteria, more than all the humans who have ever lived, will fit on your palm, but it will be so thin you can't even see it. So what's a little bacterial expulsion of a toxic gas in an atmosphere of something like 3 trillion square kilometers of atmosphere? It's nothing. But over the course of the first 100 billion years, those toxic farts built up. And finally, they poisoned the atmosphere. The atmosphere reached a tipping point and killed off nearly all life on Earth. That gas was so toxic. Well, the gas that they expelled was called oxygen. And we regard oxygen as the basis of the energy of life. Why? Because some bacteria managed to survive by taking in as boarders tiny little bacteria, much smaller than they were, who were capable of digesting this toxic stuff, this poison, oxygen, and turning it into the battery packs of life. It's called adenosine triphosphate. So this mass extinction caused by nature, not by tailpipes and smokestacks and capitalists, nearly killed off all life on Earth, but led to the evolution of kinds of cells that became multicellular, that learned how to be multicellular, meaning those cells, those adaptations to this poison led to you and me. So the resources of space once upon a time, we greened and gardened a poison pill of stone. There are poison pills of stone all over the cosmos, all over the solar system. And it's our job to be the carriers of life, the Johnny Appleseeds of life, to take life to these other poison pills of stone and turn them green. And in the process, to ship back resources to Earth, well, to do what Jeff Bezos' vision is. Jeff Bezos envisions taking all of the polluting industries of Earth and moving them into space so that Earth can remain a garden and a park for animals and human beings. That is a very nice vision, and it is possible. In fact, it is extremely likely. The big question is, who's going to keep the peace in this vast new world in which poison pills of stone are turned into resource spaces?
I was thinking you mentioned about Jeff Bezos, like have his Amazon workers do the dirty work for him.
Right. Well, so the big question here is whether the Chinese or the Americans are going to preside over these gardens in the sky, over these mining sources, like asteroids in the sky. This is going to be the basis for the next great economic explosion, for the next great period of economic growth, the next great period that lifts even the homeless among us, even the poorest among us. And the question is, who's going to be responsible? Who's going to be the kingpin in this next generation economy? We are ahead of the Chinese right now, but without Elon Musk, Elon Musk is not in this battle of the billionaires. He's just bought a ticket to go up on Richard Branson's little space plane. But it's Elon Musk who's going to save us, because he's developing a spaceship that can carry 100 passengers or 110 tons of cargo. It's utterly beyond anything we have previously imagined in space. And he's halfway toward the development of this thing. He's already sent it up to the lower limits of space and brought it back down successfully, landing it on Earth. and he's building a booster. It's called the Super Heavy. It used to be called the BFR, the big frigging rocket, with 33 engines. Can you imagine that?
33. Wow. It's just like,
Yes.
It makes me think it's like 33. It's like, like Chevys, Fords, or something like that, or even Toyotas. Oh my gosh.
Right. So it's enormous. And that will carry the Starship, which is the new spaceship, the 100-passenger spaceship, on its first orbital flight, probably in August, at the latest in September. So that's going to change the whole way that life interfaces with space, and that life takes advantage of the poison pills of stone that haven't been given the privilege of life yet. So that's the big picture of this stuff that I'm involved with.
And it's rather interesting. You talk about Mars as well, too. But what are the chances of people actually colonizing in Mars, and how much is real estate going for as well, too, if they want to build houses up in Mars?
Well, there's a very good chance, because Elon Musk is a person who sets a goal and then, no matter how slowly, achieves it and turns it into a new reality for all humanity. And his goal is to put a city on Mars. And there's no stopping him. I mean, as long as we are lucky enough to have Elon Musk alive among us, he's the growth engine of America's future right now. Unfortunately, NASA is not. NASA's still trying to build a spaceship called the Space Launch System, which is called by some the Senate launch system, because it's a giant pork barrel project. It's a giant jobs project. And to launch one of these will cost $1 billion. Well, Elon wants his Starship launches to cost $2 million each.
And
if he achieves that for the price of one space launch system launch, you can have 500 launches of the Starship. 500 launches is a space program to Mars, a space program to the moon, a space program to each of Mars' moons. It's utterly beyond belief. So NASA is moving along a dead-end path with a rocket that's too expensive to fly. And guess what, Mike? That rocket, the Space Launch System, has never flown. Well, you need enough copies of something so that if the first two blow up, you can learn from those explosions and you can build the third. NASA does not have that. It is building painfully, and at the cost of roughly $3 billion a year. It is building this rocket that has never flown and will be too expensive to fly. And again, Elon Musk will, if he reaches his goals, be capable of launching 500 Starships for the cost of one space launch system. And his rockets, the Space Launch System, this hideously expensive rocket, you use it once and you throw it away. And you have to build another one. The Starship goes up like an airplane and lands. So it can be reused. And Elon has proven with his Falcon 9 rockets that he's finally managed to build them in such a way that once they land, they need no major refurbishment at all, and they can take off again once they are refueled. Well, that's the basis of a transport system, and Earth needs that transport system. It needs all those extra resources that are hanging right above our heads, including space solar power, which will end the man-made contribution to global warming forever. And I had a partner in getting across the concept of space solar power for 4 years. And my partner was the 11th president of India, the most popular politician in South Asia. His name was Dr. APJ Kalam. And Dr. Kalam, as president of India, knew poverty. And he swore that with space solar power, we could lift 2 billion people out of poverty. So that is solving the problems of Earth. That is not just a battle between billionaires over vanity. Every form of vanity in the long run leads to an advancement of humanity.
Wow.
Which is one of the themes of my next book, which probably won't be out for 3 years, but I'm writing it right now, and you can see the chapters unfolding on my YouTube site. You go to Howard Bloom YouTube. I'm up to chapter 16 this week of that book.
Wow.
And it's about how the four of the deadly sins, materialism, consumerism, waste and vain display are nature's way of making major advancements and have led to major advancements for humankind. I mean, once upon a time, there was a guy who made jewelry and tiny little mirrors for the super rich in Germany, his home territory. And he used the techniques that he learned for making these gewgaws, nothing but vain display, to make letters of the alphabet, to cast A's, B's, C's, and D's. And in the process, he invented printing. So here was an utter display of vanity that led to a giant leap forward for humanity: literacy, mass-produced books. That's the kind of thing that pursuing what seems like trivial vanity usually often accomplishes for all of humankind.
That is rather interesting. And of course, you talk about the whole thing with NASA building a rocket, which costs billions and billions. And then you got Elon Musk that builds a rocket that costs millions. And what is the difference with that? Is it the material? And if it's a material, it's like, what type of material is being used for Elon Musk to make millions? And what's the material being used that costs billions for NASA?
Well, the difference is vision. Now, vision means nothing. We all have visions all the time. We all imagine things that never were. The old George Bernard Shaw saying that Bobby Kennedy used to use: some men look at things that are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not. Well, we all have lots of fantasies. But then you have to have the persistence to turn a fantasy into a reality. And Elon Musk has that persistence plus the ability to simplify things. For example, instead of developing 5 different spaceships to accomplish 5 things, he's developing one spaceship that can accomplish all of those 5 things. And NASA has always been engaged in the military form of procurement. And the military form of procurement could destroy American kids, American soldiers, if we ever get into a fighting war again, because the system is designed not to produce the greatest weapons or the greatest technologies ever seen. It is designed to put money in the pockets of the SMIC, the Space Military Industrial Complex. And NASA is using that same procedure. It's called cost plus. And once you, Mike Wagner, you put your name in for a cost plus contract and you say that something like the James Webb Space Telescope, you're going to be able to bring it in for less than $1 billion. And you're going to be able to bring it in ready to launch in 2 years. And once you've got your hands on that stream of money, you don't let it go. So the James Webb Space Telescope 10 years later still has not launched. And now the telescope that was supposed to cost less than $1 billion is costing roughly $12 billion. Wow. Once you get your hooks into the government pocketbook, you just keep that stream of money flowing. Your goal is not necessarily to put up that space telescope. It's to fatten your bottom line. So that way of doing things is going to kill America in a war, and has been killing America's space program. However, Elon Musk was kind enough, he's an immigrant. He was kind enough to move from South Africa to the United States to effectuate his space program. And Elon has the only forward-looking space program there is on the face of the North American continent right now. And it's really in this race of America versus the Chinese, it's Elon Musk against the Chinese. And we are so lucky to have him that it defies description, because no one else seems to have the sort of vision and ability to turn vision into reality that Elon has.
That sounds interesting as well, too. You talk about China being in the race against America when it comes to space. And what country or countries do you see next to competing against U.S. or competing against China?
Well, it's going to be us versus China, because Russia has thrown its lot in with China, and the Russians and Chinese have agreed that they're going to build a base on the moon. Well, guess what? We don't have any plans for a base on the moon. We don't have any plans for a habitation of any kind on the moon. We don't have plans to make the moon a home. The Chinese and the Russians do. The Chinese are also wooing the Europeans.
Oh, wow.
To work with them. We have the International Space Station, which has been up there for decades, getting rather smelly in the process. which is going to be deorbited sometime around very roughly 2025 or 2028. Well, the Chinese put up the first module of their new space station, and they've got 3 technonauts, their version of astronauts, on their space station, living there for 3 months. That's nowhere near what we've accomplished with the International Space Station, where people have lived there for a year at a time, where it's been continuously inhabited for over 20 years. But because our space station is going to come out of the sky, it's going to be deorbited one of these days, which is a shame. It should be left like the pyramids in space so that sightseers can go and see it. One way or the other, the Chinese are planning to have the only space station in space, and they're turning that into an international project too. Why? To gain credibility, to gain stature. To gain stature as the new greatest power on the face of the earth. And the Europeans are being wooed to participate, and I believe they are participating in the Chinese space station. So it's really going to be 2 superpowers up against each other. The Americans, who have a $11 trillion deficit or something of the sort, and the Chinese, who have a $4 trillion cash surplus. And in general, there are competitions. He who has the surplus wins. So our surplus is imagination. Our surplus is our ability to critique our own government and to improve things. The Chinese don't have that privilege. They are monitored all the time to make sure that they don't get out of line with what the party wants them to talk about and think about. And the question is whether a country under those rigid constraints of an authoritarian governance can outdo a country with democracy, pluralism, freedom of speech. We shall see. I want us to win.
Yes, definitely do so as well, too. I'll talk about the Big Bang Tango Media Lab in just a minute as well, too, as part of the space, talk with Howard Bloom. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the mikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international award-winning author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Hollywood celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for Girls Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon, and also brought to you by our new sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show. Picture this photo books, where remembering is the key ingredient. How beautifully your mother looked at her wedding, or even more so at yours, and who doesn't miss grandmother's meatballs? Well, the holidays are coming. What better time to give a gift of remembrance that makes you laugh and cry at the same time? Whatever gift, a gift for grandma's recipes, or just because, those smiles and tears will melt your heart. Call Karen Shaw at 646-798-0809. That's 646-798-0809. Or visit picturethisphotoBooks.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Picture This Photo Books, bringing memories back to life. They're whimsical, casual, or formal, and always uniquely you. And don't forget to take the Mike Wagner Show on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel, and check out the Mike Wagner Show on over 30 podcast platforms. And check out the Mike Wagner Show merchandise, mikewagnershow.com, and also on Amazon. And also check out the Mia Molson-Zia store on Amazon as well, too, for great books and more. And don't forget to donate to the mikewagnershow.com as well, also on Anchor FM and PayPal. Make sure you do so today. We're here with author, publicist, and also space expert Howard Bloom here on the Mike Wagner Show. Always great to talk to you, Howard, as well, too. And you also have another thing to talk about, the Big Bang Tango Media Lab. You can tell us more about that.
Well, the Big Bang Tango Media Lab started in 2001. I was lecturing online a group of kids and told them that ultimately I wanted to put together a 360-degree entertainment with that functioned on the ceiling, on the walls, on the floors, that took you from the Big Bang to what's going on in your brain and mine as we're having this conversation.
Oh, wow.
And a bunch of these kids said, well, how can we help? We'd like to help you achieve this. So Sunday night is the loneliest night of the week. You're transitioning from the weekend to Monday, really grim. And I told them, let's get together on Sunday night. So people have been getting together with me on this Big Bang Tango Media Lab ever since. We put together the world's first biopolitical animation, which I think you can find on the web. It's Why Do the Iraqis Hate Us?
Huh.
And we did that with a storyboard artist who works for the New York Times, does illustrations for the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal in New York, with a sound person who works with the Worldwide Wrestling Federation in Connecticut, with a film student who coordinated the whole project in Vancouver. And the real moving engine of the process was a company called Pigtail Pundits in Mumbai, India, which actually did the animation and executed the whole thing. And it was wonderful. These days, it's become mostly a discussion group about space. And it has a few people who are deeply expert in this subject and a few people who are wildly visionary in the subject. And it gives me a chance to see, right now, the focus is on Boca Chica, Texas. Because in Boca Chica, Texas, Elon Musk is developing this Starship. And he's developed the first 4 copies of his super heavy 33 engine launch vehicle. And we're all anxiously waiting to see what happens. And we have one member of the group who keeps his eyes on what is going on in Boca Chica from day to day to day, and can give us weekly reports on what's going on. And then Monday night, so that's tonight, I run the Space Development Steering Committee, which Buzz Aldrin sort of kidnapped me into forming 15 years ago. And that has some extraordinary and brilliant experts in it. And we push for various projects. Then, of course, there's the Space Group with Newt Gingrich and Governor David Paterson. And there's a 4th project. It's a fundraiser for the National Space Society, which I'm putting together with an actor named Harry Hamlin, who was voted the sexiest man alive by People magazine in the 1980s and has been accumulating acting awards ever since. And who also, his family has been in science in major ways for 4 generations now. His grandfather built the Science Museum in Buffalo, New York, my hometown, that I used to visit when I was a kid. And when Garfield was shot, it was his grandfather, or great-grandfather, who took the president and put him into his car and took him to a hospital. So Harry has a nuclear fission company called TAE, which has made some major breakthroughs and is now offering spin-offs of the research that it's done to achieve nuclear fission, something that no one has achieved, but people have been dreaming about since the 1940s.
Wow.
So it's an interesting set of projects. It's a little bit more time consuming than I can handle when I have a new book that I've got to keep writing. But it is, Mike, it is a sheer privilege and a joy to be on the cutting edge of things and to try to keep that cutting edge sharp and to try to let the public know the things that are highest priorities. Again, when I first got into this, I realized that America needs a vision implant. Without a vision, a nation shall perish, says Proverbs. And America's vision was about dystopias, was about all the ways we could go downhill and destroy ourselves. There were no visions of how we could go up and reinvent ourselves for the next half century. And that's what we deeply needed. And I have found that in the space movement.
Yes, indeed. And of course, another thing that came up in mind as well, too, besides writing the book, which you say would take about 3 years or so. And if you got it done earlier, that'd be great, too. I'd love to have you back on talking about the book, which will allow you, go on the, faster than that, maybe take your time or whatever. But what are some of the upcoming projects that you guys have or something that you would like to pursue as well?
Well, there was a visionary named Gerard O'Neill at Princeton University back in the 1980s. And among his students was a kid named Jeff Bezos. And the guy's name was Gerard O'Neill. And Gerard O'Neill had a vision of hanging colonies in space, roughly 5 miles long, even 20 miles long, a mile in diameter, with 500 acres of real estate, with farms and fields and forests and streams and puppy dogs and trees. And it was an astonishing vision. And that's the vision that Jeff Bezos wants to implement in one form or another. And to see life spreading through first this solar system, and then through the entire galaxy, and then beyond the galaxy, something life dearly wants to do, because life is expansionist, life is growth oriented, life is colonialist. You could even say that life is imperialist. It is life's basic task is to kidnap, seduce, and recruit as many dead atoms as possible and bring them into the grand project of life. Bring them into greening and gardening the place. So greening the solar system and gardening the galaxy is exactly what I would like to see. I wrote a manifesto about it. You can find it on howardbloom.net, called Garden the Solar System, Green the Galaxy. And it's what I dearly want to see. Humans working on behalf of life itself to take life far beyond where life has been so far.
And of course, I'm on it right now as we speak here, thanks to technology, and just checking it out. And it's just amazing. You can check it out, bring space to life and whatever else. And oh my gosh, I could easily grow an amazing garden in this place, better than what we have right now. So.
Right. Well, there are amazing things happening with gardening. There's hydroponics and aeroponics.
Oh, I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, that wall behind you could literally be filled with plants. I have a friend. Yes, exactly. I have a friend who, I don't know if he's still doing this, but he was creating walls of plants for restaurants.
Wow.
So that herbs that would season your food are growing on the wall next to you while you're trying to get the attention of the maitre d' or hostess to get a table. So these things can be applied in space. There are folks who have, because they were driven underground, they were raising an illegal crop, learned how to grow that crop in basements and attics with artificial light. And they've perfected this form of indoor agriculture. They're called marijuana farmers. So recently they were illegal. And every trick that they developed is useful for farming in space. And farming in space is an absolute necessity. Our vision of space since the 1940s has been of living in tin cans. Well, nobody wants to live in tin cans, Mike. We're a biophilic species, a life and greenery loving species. The sight of greenery brings us to life. There is a ton of research on this topic. So if we're going into space to stay, we need to plaster the walls with greenery. We need to hang the ceilings with greenery. We need to carpet the floors with greenery, which makes us the messengers or the carriers, the UPS of life. Now, life has been in the habit of hiring UPS drivers for a very long time. Once upon a time, there were these plants that were doing this absurd process called sex. And in order to get sexuality accomplished, they needed to get their sperm, their male cells, pollen, to plants like themselves far away as possible. So how did they pull this off? They hired another species who were capable of flying. They paid the species off with pollen and nectar. The species they hired to fly from one plant to another one just like it, a good distance away, carrying pollen in their hind leg baskets. Those employees, those Federal Express drivers, were called insects.
Interesting.
As pollinators. That was a period called the Great Angiosperm Explosion. And in the same way that plants hired insects as their UPS drivers, today all of life is trying to hire humans as their Federal Express and UPS drivers to space, as their Amazon delivery system.
I was just going to say Amazon drivers, like that's something Jeff Bezos is do. It's like, hire Amazon drivers to do his work. And you mentioned about hydroponics and air gardens. My wife got into that, and I got her an air garden as a gift, and been into hydroponics. And I can say this, it is so amazing. We just home grew our lettuce and just have ourselves a nice salad. I mean, we highly recommend it.
Well, that's terrific. So imagine doing that in space. It's a lot more comforting if you have sunlight, which you can create artificially, and if you have greenery all around you. So we need farms on the moon. We need farms on Mars. If we're interested in Phobos and Deimos, the moons of Mars, hey, farm those places too, and put those giant cylinders that Gerard O'Neill dreamed about in the 1980s, with just filled with real estate in space. And another argument for space that says that Bezos and Branson are not pursuing something trivial. Once upon a time, the United States got involved in a totally unjust war with Mexico, and it won the war. And it won a whole bunch of Mexican territory, Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and California. And when it won California, it took its greatest logistics experts and sent them out to California to see if there was anything useful in this place. And the experts came back and said, there is nothing useful there. Don't bother to spend a penny. It's a wasteland. The only thing out there are poisonous rattlesnakes and scorpions. Well, without California, California gave birth to industries that those logistics experts could not even dream about. Just two: Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and populating the vast wastelands of the moon and Mars is likely to produce similar unbelievable results, but gifts that lift all of humanity.
Also, maybe think of Napa Valley as well, too, where you make wine and everything. It's like, that's another thing that came up. It's like wine. And of course, you got a good amount of farms, cattle, and everything else. And I thought of wine. It's like, you could probably make better wine up in the Mars and moon.
Well, that's entirely possible, but they'll be different wines. And the more tastes in wines, the better. The more we spread out, the more we explore what is wine. It's a grape's way of inducing us, rewarding us, paying us off, giving us a treat in exchange for making more space for grapes and making new kinds of grapes. So it's the grapes, if you want to look at it that way, that are really in charge. And we're the insects of the 21st century. We are the carriers of life to space.
And of course, too, I also thought about as well, too, like with farms and everything possible, too. It's like, I'm sure there'd be better cattle, better chicken, and, better animals, and hopefully they'll behave better up in Mars and the moon. I'm hoping so. It's like they better act civil. It's like, well, to send them back to Earth.
Well, my girlfriend talks about a friend of hers who has a chicken that's madly in love with her and follows her around everywhere. My first wife had a chicken who was the runt of the litter, totally featherless. He used to follow her wherever she went. So chickens and goats and all kinds of animals can be remarkably more friendly than we sometimes see. But having them up in space, yes, by all means, except it's very likely we'll grow artificial meat up there. Actual meat, but meat grown from cells, not dependent on killing poor animals.
And that's all true as well, too. And of course, I think the thing I'm not sure we touched about as well, too. We talk about the space race. Of course, you got that $2 billion moon prize, and makes you and me and a bunch of people want to get on it, too. So,
well, the $2 billion moon prize group is right now focusing on something very simple. NASA's plan for getting to the moon has nothing to do with getting to the moon. It involves using the Space Launch System rocket. Remember that Franken rocket that's too expensive to fly? It cannot land on the moon. It involves using, to carry humans, something called an Orion capsule. It cannot land on the moon. So they're planning an entire moon base. They call it the Lunar Gateway, because that's the only thing that a space launch system in the Orion can possibly reach, is something hovering in the skies of the moon. And then using some kind of as yet unbuilt landing vehicle to get humans from this unnecessary space station in an unnecessary orbit down to the actual surface of the moon. Well, this is Mickey Mouse. This is crazy. This is insane. This is just a way to spend an awful lot of money to keep Northrop Grumman happy. And and not necessarily to advance the cause of America or life itself. Where we're advocating is using that 100-passenger rocket, the space launch, or the Starship, the SpaceX vehicle, the Elon Musk vehicle, which can do something that neither the Orion nor the SLS nor the Lunar Gateway can do. It can land on the moon and it can take off again. So forget the Lunar Gateway. Go directly to the moon with the Starship and come directly back from the moon with the Starship. Do things the simplest way possible, not the most complicated way possible that will put money in the pockets of the space military industrial complex.
That's really interesting too. And of course, you talk about having the moon built by NASA, where it's just a one-time trip, round trip, and that's it. You scrap it for like parts or whatever it is. It's like, how many times do they say that the spaceship can go back and forth? Like how many times before it wears out?
Well, that's a good question, because right now, the Falcon 9, the rocket that's been working the most reliably of any rocket on the North American continent, and possibly any rocket on Earth, because it's the only one that can land, be refurbished, and take off again. Elon has just used one of those rockets for the 10th time.
Wow.
So that's a milestone. His goal is to be able to fly these things 100 times. His goal is to have them reused. I mean, when you take a bus trip to LA, you do not throw the bus away in the ocean when the trip is over, and then you do not have a new bus built to take you back home again. Well, that's the NASA approach. Throw the buses away. That bus will be reused for 30 or 40 years. And that is the goal with SpaceX, its Starship, and its all of its vehicles. And there are very few of its vehicles. There's the Falcon 9, and there's the Starship, and there's the Falcon Heavy, only 3 vehicles, for a reason. If you make one of your vehicles capable of doing everything, then you can save the billions and billions and billions of dollars it could cost to develop new vehicles, and you can use it getting your vehicles to do useful things like the moon and Mars.
That's really interesting as well, too. And also, I'll talk more about your book as well, too. And where can we find all your information? We're going to find your books, and how can people locate you?
Well, I'm at howardbloom.net, but you can simply go to Amazon and type in Howard Bloom, and you'll see all 7 of my existing books. And if you read one, email me and tell me what you think of it.
We certainly will do so. And what's coming up for Howard Bloom in 2021 and beyond, we'll find out just 1 minute. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by our official sponsor of The Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's Eve Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Also brought to you by our brand new sponsor of The Mike Wagner Show, Picture This Photo Books, where remembering is a key ingredient. Call Karen Shaw at 646-798-0809 or visit picturethisphotobooks.com. And we'll be back with author Howard Bloom with an update after this timeout. This edition of the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Picture This Photo Books, where remembering is the key ingredient. How beautiful your mother looked at her wedding, and even more so at yours. And who doesn't miss Grandma's meatballs? The holidays are coming. What better time to give a gift of remembrance that makes you laugh and cry all at the same time? Whatever gift of Grandma's recipes, or just because, those smiles and tears will melt your heart. Call Karen Shaw at 646-798-0809 or visit picturethisphotobooks.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 10% off your first order. Picture This Photo Books, bringing your memories back to life. They're whimsical, casual, or formal, and always uniquely you.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. You know, it talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamotionzea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Ray Powers. And if there's one thing you can count on in these unpredictable times, it's that you're in good hands getting some great radio, courtesy of The Mike Wagner Show.
We're back with Howard Bloom. We talked about the space program here on the Mike Wagner Show. And I mean, it was just always amazing to have you on as, talking about space, exploration, and everything else. And what can you expect me in 2021, or especially we say the next frontier, Howard?
Well, there is a new organization, the Howard Bloom Institute, that is dedicated to keeping my work alive after I'm gone. Mike, when I was 10 years old, I was totally lost. Nobody in my hometown of Buffalo wanted me, not the other kids, not my parents. And I was saved by a book that told me the first 2 rules of science: the truth at any price, including the price of your life, and look at things right under your noses if you've never seen them before, then proceed from there. And the guys who saved me were Galileo and the inventor of the microscope, Anton von Leeuwenhoek. So the goal, these guys reached out over a distance of 350 years to catch me before I could fall. And my goal is to reach out over the next 350 years and catch the next poor kid. I owe it to the shoulders of the giants who were kind enough to loft me and lift me. So the Howard Bloom Institute is dedicated to that goal. There's a film called The Grand Unified Theory of Howard Bloom that has won 2 festival awards. It won those awards before the festival circuit was closed down by COVID. And that film is available on Amazon and Apple and every place but Netflix. So it's easy to get. And I'm working on the next book, but as you said, it won't be out for another 3 years. And that one is called, at this moment, The Case of the Sexual Cosmos. Everything you know about nature is wrong. And there's another film in the works by Buckminster Fuller's film biographer, Noel B. Murphy, and we'll see when he gets around to finishing that film.
Oh, we're so looking forward to it here. We're going to, once again, we're Howard Bloom here on the Mike Wagner Show. Howard, very big thank you for your time. As always, you're welcome to come back on anytime. You amaze me, you amaze everybody. And once again, tell us how can we reach you? What's your website? And where can people purchase your books, check you out? And you're also on Coast to Coast on sometimes too.
Yeah.
What's that?
Good point. Every Wednesday night at 1:06 a.m. Eastern Time, I'm on Coast to Coast, so you can hear 3.5 minutes of my news commentary once a week on Coast to Coast. It's 545 radio stations, so there's bound to be a station near you. And you can look me up on howardbloom.net, which is just riddled with information, or howardbloom.institute, which is a website in development. But most important, Howard Bloom on Amazon, and you'll see my 7 books, including the one behind me, Einstein, Michael Jackson, and Me, A Search for Soul in the Power Pits of Rock and Roll, my latest book.
And that's an amazing book as well, too. And give us a quick update on that.
Well, it's out there. It's about my adventures with Michael Jackson, Prince, Bob Marley, Bette Midler, AC/DC, Aerosmith, Kiss, Queen, Run DMC, Billy Joel, Billy Idol, Paul Simon, Peter Gabriel, David Byrne, and people like that. And it's been named the best book of 2020. By the Hollywood Weekly Times, I think it's called, and the New York Weekly Times. And it's been named by, I think it's called Hollywood Digest. It has been named the most soul-busting book ever, or something like that. The book with the most soul ever. I've got the phrase a little bit cockeyed, but that's the general idea. So it's about something much deeper than just stories, although the stories are amazing. They're adventures in the human soul. And imagine having the privilege of soul diving into people like Michael Jackson and Prince. And that was my privilege for the 17 years that I ran the Howard Bloom organization, which was the biggest PR firm in the music industry.
And of course, you can also send Billy Joel into the space program as well, too. I'm sure he'll love that.
Instead of motorcycles, yes.
Hey, that's a good idea. It's like motorcycles into space. It's like if Elon Musk can build rockets, why not motorcycles taken to space? I think that's another project we can all pursue. So.
Right. It would be a wonderful idea.
It would be. We'll talk more about that. Once again, Howard Bloom here on the Mike Wagner Show. It's always great to have you on board, and love you back on 2021 beyond. Don't forget to keep in touch. You've been absolutely great, and don't forget to just warm oomph and everything else. You're always terrific.
Mike, thanks. It's a pleasure.
Picture this photo books, where remembering is the key ingredient. Preserving memories, keeping the memories of your loved ones alive as they reach in and touch your heart. How beautiful your mother looked at her wedding, and even more so at yours. The holidays are coming. What better time to give a gift of remembrance that makes you laugh and cry all at the same time? Whether it's a gift of past holidays, grandma's recipes, long ago moments, or just because. Those smiles and tears will melt your heart. Call Karen Shaw at 646-798-0809. Once again, that's 646-798-0809. Or visit picturethisphotoBooks.com.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. You know, it talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamoshenzea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, Custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartradio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.